This episode has been brought to you by our friends over at CMB Law. If you find yourself in a tight spot and you need an attorney to trust, call Courtney over at CMB Law, 941-747-4440 or 941-725-9457. You can also visit her site at cmbjustice.com. cmbjustice.com. Again, that's Courtney at CMB Law. Tell them that Thomas FreeMe sent you from the Thomas FreeMe podcast show. Hey everybody, I just want to take a moment to thank all my subscribers and listeners that dedicate a little bit of time just to hear what I got to say. Thank you so much, but the struggle is real and it continues. Please spread awareness and do your part by making sure that you are subscribed and liking each of the episodes that you listen to. Share my episodes and spread awareness of my channel and what it is that I'm doing. These little things right here is what helps me grow and helps sponsorship come my way, as I am a struggling ex-con. I appreciate the support, the love, and thank you so much for tuning in. More to come. Welcome back. This is Thomas FreeMe with the Thomas FreeMe TV and podcast show. I brought back a long-standing friend of the show. He's been on a couple episodes. If you haven't caught them, please do go back and check them out. And today we wanted to talk a little bit about just some of federal securities, what goes on inside of federal prisons, some of our anxieties as inmates, especially during wartime and when we knew that there was conflict about. So, Paul, how you doing, man?
Good. Thank you.
How's life been for you?
Very good. I can't complain.
For those that don't know you, give a brief introduction of who you are and a little bit of what you've been through.
Well, I just got out of prison this year. Last year, February the 5th, almost been a year now. And I had a life sentence without parole. And I was resentenced and given time served after almost 30 years.
Mm-hmm. And you suffered a little bit of trauma in your life as well, right?
Before I got locked up, I was shot. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. How's that coming along for you? You were shot in the face, right?
True. Yes, I was.
How's all that coming for you?
Well, I got all the medical things fixed, after I got out, because, the BOP they don't really handle all the cosmetic issues. So I got that straightened out.
Mm-hmm. And you went into prison with this wound, right?
True. I got locked up at the hospital, and I never seen the light of day. Basically, long story short, I wanted to make a drug deal, and I was shot and robbed, and I got away, and I wound up going to the hospital, and not knowing the robbers spun a web and got me charged up,
Mm-hmm.
So
today, go ahead, partner.
Not many people get shot and robbed and don't say who shot them and robbed them. And that, I guess, went against me too, So here I am in the hospital, a victim, but the authorities don't know that. And basically, I was charged with attempt murder, and I was the one that was shot.
You see how I sent you the about the interview with the guy with the 7 life sentences for marijuana?
Yes, that's crazy, especially, given the fact that marijuana is legal in a lot of places throughout the country.
But we're united. This is the United States, though. And one man can smoke a blunt in one state and another man gets 7 life sentences in another.
You know, it's crazy when we look at it from that perspective. But when we look at it from the lawmakers' perspective, they're doing exactly what they plan to do to generate money for the military industrial complex, the prison complex, and basically make money off of human beings' lives, the same way they have always have throughout history, especially in this country since the Civil War. And it's going on again right in front of our eyes with the war on the virus that was declared by Trump.
Yeah, you know, I did a podcast with a guy named Tanawa, a gentleman named Tanawa, and we've been going over the Constitution, and it's like he says, you know, we're constantly being hit with just a wave of terror, of fear, consistently. You know, whether it's the war on drugs. What all wars have we declared on our citizens? The war on drugs, this war on terrorism, war. There's always a war going on some kind of way, you know, to keep us in fear. But with
it's
us,
not about fear so much, it's to keep us from the common law portion of the Constitution, because every time they declare a war on something, you can forget about your constitutional rights as you know them.
Well, that's what they want us to believe, is that we don't have constitutional rights.
Well, when they put us under that category of the declaration of war, like let's talk about the war on drugs. When they declare a war on drugs in the 70s, that gave them the legal right to violate my Constitution and put me in prison the way they did, because they did not abide by my constitutional rights. Only when they're winding that war down do they slowly reinstate those constitutional rights.
Well, where in the Constitution does it state that during wartime or during where in the Constitution does it state that the executive branch has executive powers to override your constitutional rights?
Well, okay. When they declared a war on the virus just not too long ago, you see how they stop people from going to church? You see how they are mandating masks and they're slowly implementing the vaccine? Well, just like Alan Dershowitz said, they can make you take that vaccine. Well, under the common law portion of the Constitution and Article 3 court and all that, no, they can't. But under that declaration of war on the virus, they're operating under a different set of rules and procedures. Now they can, you know, so it's just a matter of time before they either do it or they try to do it and the people rebel.
Well, it's again, this goes back to the conversation that Mr. Tanawa and I had, where you're right in what you say, because we have left the realm of constitutional law and we've entered into judicial law, where judges are creating law with their opinions, right? We follow judicial law more than we follow constitutional law. When people are citing law, they're not pulling up Constitution, they're pulling up what judges' opinions are. And that has turned the tide away from our Constitution more into a government, society. So we today think that we don't have these rights, or they have the right to take away. Now, what happened, from my understanding, is when 9/11 came and then the Patriot Act was introduced, now under the label of terrorism, right? Everything that was going on in Guantanamo Bay and such. But under the label of terrorism, we're subjected to no rights constitutionally. But there is a ruling that isn't so. That even though that they are in Guantanamo Bay and labeled as terrorists, they still have certain amount of rights, and they actually have more rights than what we have here in America as prisoners.
Now, the thing is this, under the war on terror, they locked those combatants up on the battlefield, legally dressed in their military clothes, and they held them in Guantanamo Bay indefinitely without no, court hearing or whatever. And when the war on terror is winding down, then they will be released. And look, over the last year or so, they've been systematically, slowly released because the war on terror is winding down, and they will have more rights given back to them. And, their constitutional rights, anybody here that falls under that war on terror, they can go up in your house, search your house without a warrant. They can detain you indefinitely.
Well, this is what I was just going to say. I don't know if the war on terror is winding down, because I'm seeing more and more cases of domestic terrorism. I've never even heard of anybody being charged with domestic terrorism except for the last 5 or 6 years.
Right. Well, that's the last rung. I mean, like a grand finale. Every war has like a grand finale, where they just let all the fireworks off. You know what I mean? The war on drugs, you know what the grand finale was? The war on drugs? They just flood the streets with their Oxycontin, get everybody addicted to that, and then they pull it back. And then everybody that was addicted to the Oxycontin is going to get the street heroin. And when they get that, look what they get. They get fentanyl in there and they OD. So they get a 2-for-1. They get a lot of people addicted, and then they pull it back, and then they're doing fentanyl and dying. That's the grand finale.
So to turn the discussion onto what we were getting into today, us being inmates inside of these institutions, these government institutions, right, being locked away with no control whatsoever of any kind of escape or freedom. So it's us knowing these things. Like, how does that affect us? What are some of your thought processes, knowing what you know, being locked away in a cell behind a door?
Well, like I wanted to get out before they started instituting more stringent policies dealing with the vaccine, because I knew there would come a time with this virus, fake virus, and fake deaths, that they're scaring people and marking deaths up as COVID and this, that, and the other. So they say, see, look, he's dying. And they're dying of heart attacks. They're dying of cancer. They're dying of gunshot, and they're being counted as COVID. But they need these deaths to say, look, COVID, the bad guy, it's killing people. So they can implement all their other policies. This is not about a virus. This is about a vaccine. Okay? Don't take your eye off the ball here. The whole all of these psychological plays they're doing is about the vaccine. All these different ploys implement fear to get you to do it. If that don't work, give financial incentive. If that don't work, you can't get a job. You can't get this operation. You can't get treated for cancer. All these implement these psychological elementary games that they're implementing. The average person don't even see it. So, and me sitting in prison, like, I know it's coming. And those guys are still on lockdown, most of them, since this whole thing started with the COVID. And they're going to start maybe forcing them prisoners to take the vaccine, or they don't get visits. or they don't get out their cell. They got to stay locked in their cell. So basically, they stay locked in their cell 24 hours a day if they don't get the vaccine. So they're going to, and then when they get tired of that, they don't get the vaccine, then they're going to force it on them. And, the Supreme Court might be hearing something about mandating vaccines for jobs or something with OSHA or whatever. But Supreme Court, they ain't going to, I don't see them getting involved really too heavily. And they're going to let everybody have their way, because this whole thing is a worldwide thing. All the UN members are all on board. Go get your vaccines. They want everybody to get them. And I want everybody to get them too. Because if they're stupid enough to get that damn vaccine, they don't need to be living on this planet anyway.
Well, the thing of it is with me is I just want everybody to have their freedom of choice. I don't care what the next person does.
Okay, right.
You know what I mean? I don't care. If they feel safer with their life going and getting the vaccine, then more power to you. I want you to feel comfortable with your life, but don't force it on me. Don't tell me that I have to take it to save your life and all of this stuff, man, because one is not going to work with me. You know what I mean? If I choose to take it, it's going to be under my own decision-making process.
Right. If it was a vaccine, but it's not a vaccine. That's the whole kicker. I mean, I'm calling it a vaccine because that's what we're talking about, but it's not a vaccine as we're used to and we know of. This is something, a whole new ball game right here. This is, this alters your body. So basically, under the Supreme Court ruling in 2012, anybody that takes this vaccine is no longer a human being. They are basically owned. And I believe I sent you that Supreme Court ruling, with the mRNA technology. They are a patented product now. And so they're no longer even considered human being, and that falls under, constitutional law or anything. They're patented products now because of that patent that's being held in that technology that created that vaccine. So these people are not even considered human anymore by the Supreme Court. Because they knew this was coming. Supreme Court ruled on that in 2012. I sent you the link. Did you see it?
Yeah, you'll have to send it back to me so I could put it in the descriptions to this video.
Yeah. So all y'all got that vaccine. You're not human no more.
And they may be happy for that. Again, like I say, I do not want this thing to, again, be another instrument of division amongst the people. I don't outcast anybody for their decisions. You know what I mean? And again, I don't want to be ostracized for my decisions as well. I want us American citizens to understand what these people are doing to us, and just come together, and unite. So I'm not going to allow them to cause any more division or strife. It's come together because I understand, Paul, I understand people are scared. They don't know what to do. You know what I mean? They don't have the correct information. So I understand, and I don't want anybody to feel, ostracized for what they think may be the right choice. You know what I mean?
They don't know what they don't know.
Ignorance is bliss. I mean, these type of cliches and metaphors and euphemisms have been used for thousands of years, and they're there for a reason, because these are wise quotes. Ignorance is bliss. But at the end of the day, how blissful is it, when you're, when the shit's hitting the fan? And again, as inmates, like, some of my thought process is sitting in this cell. I promise you, every cell that I've ever been in, locked behind a door, I just studied every corner, every inch of that cell, just to figure out if And when the event of anything was to happen, how the hell do I get out of this cell? You know what I mean? How do I get out of this cell? How do I get out? I can't fit through this little sliver of a window. These are 400-pound steel doors. You know what I mean? With the greatest of locks on them that's all accessible from outside the cell. I can't access anything from inside the cell. I have no tools. How do I get out?
Well, just like a test case on that was Beaumont. Remember when the hurricane went through?
The floods.
Yeah, the hurricane. Those guys were trapped in there.
Yep.
And a lot of them died.
And it flooded to the second floor.
And a lot of them died because they didn't get their medication and all their insulin or whatever, you know. And basically, their toilets didn't work, you know. So how they go in the bathroom, you know, they had to break out the window you're talking about, that little sliver of a window. And so some guards, you know, was still working there, and they handed out water and did what they could, but the courts did nothing.
No, you know what they did is they locked the institution down. They locked all the inmates in their cells, and they took off. They left. There was a few guards that stayed for emergency purposes, but it was a ghost town, and all these inmates were locked in these cells for whatever happened, you know. So let's talk a little bit about the story that I posted that you wanted to come on and talk about, you know, the gas lines and such in the federal institutions.
Yeah, you know, I mean, as you know, it's always been talk what would have happened when they you know, would they ever do something like that? And the word that circulated was if foreign soldiers ever came on this soil, that they basically would put us as prisoners to death, which, you know, because they think that we would be enemy combatants against them since we're prisoners. That's not necessarily the case, you know what I mean? You know, I don't think any prisoner would want to see a foreign government, say, whether it be China, come and take over. They would still fight for this country against the enemy and then deal with their internal enemy at a later date. You know what I mean? But I don't think they would just give up like that. And but basically they were saying they would put the prisoners to death. And that's basically what you're referring to, was about that how they would gas the prisoners.
Yeah, I always heard that it was you know, medium security and higher. All medium security and higher inmates would be exterminated if in the event we were ever invaded, because of the reason that you gave, because they would be feared that the prisons would be overran, and they would, you know, release the inmates and triple their numbers, you know. How about freeing some of them? Let's do that. Let's try that. But so I don't know. I've never seen any documentation to prove that, but it was always known. And every inmate knows that. You know what I mean? That in that event, that's what the chutes are for the doors. You know, they say that they're food shorts, you know, chutes or whatever, but you open the chute, you're access to anything, you know. There's always these lines running through as we're talking about, and they're red lines, and they have poison stickers on them and such, and they're running through the roofs. You know, in some institutions where the roofs are open, you can see the lines being ran, but we always question, like, what are these? You know, what are these? You know, what are those lines? What are they doing? You know,
it's their way to implement the poison gas. You know,
but these are just some of the anxieties that we just deal with every day. You know what I mean? Just day in and day out, you know, amongst so many others. But you just don't know, you know, what is that? That's the question. What happens if we was to go into a war? What happens to our inmates?
You know, well, if something ain't figured out, then they would be put to death. You know, because if you leave it up to this government that we have, they already try to put us to death by giving us a death sentence, life or 7 life sentences. So to kill us would be a lot easier for them. So to think that they wouldn't do that, you're sadly mistaken.
Yeah, I'm afraid you're right, my friend. They've showed more. They've showed more that they're able to do something like that than they're not. You know what I mean?
Just one thing about Uncle Sam, he's very unforgiving.
What did Hillary say? Collateral damage?
Yeah. But you know, the only thing that's protecting us is so many people in this country have guns. That's the only thing keeping Uncle Sam from actually doing what he wants to do.
Yeah, and you see what they're doing to try to get them.
It's slowing him down, put it that way. It's slowing down. They're going to come and get those guns, believe me. They're coming and getting those guns. Okay? First, they're making the ammunition shortage. That's all been created intentionally. They're coming to get them guns. Trust me when I tell you. And the way they're going to do it is they're going to do it under the umbrella of the war on the virus. What they're going to do is they're going to cause problems in society where they have to bring in the military or National Guard. And then once they bring in the military and National Guard on the skies to help, they're going to quarantine off areas, all because the virus is getting out of control. Many deaths, people won't get vaccinated. Okay, all these reasons to quarantine off areas. And then once they quarantine off areas, you have people, the food shortage is already starting in stores. Look on the shelves. Okay, I predicted that many months ago. I think the last time we talked.
You did. You did, partner.
Yes, I did. Now I'm telling you what's going on.
You did.
So
you said
when they do that, you're going to have people, the alpha males in our society, mainly your gangs and whatnot, ain't going to tolerate it, and they're going to want to, you know, stretch their arms, get their food, and get this and get that. And now the military done quarantine off areas. Then what you have fighting in the streets. Okay, then once that starts, now that is their excuse to come door to door and start taking guns or forcing vaccines.
Yeah, but not only that, that's what they want us to do. If God forbid anything, some civil unrest was to arise to that extent, we would wipe ourselves out so much that they wouldn't even need to come in and do anything else. They would have control. We would wipe out our own people, because we would be arguing with each other, and it's just that because there's no unity with us. You know, we'd be arguing about what sides. Well, I'm going to be on the white side. I'm going to be on the black side. I'm going to be on the left side. I'm going to be on the right side.
It's bigger than that. It's bigger than that. It's bigger than
I'm going to be on the vaccinated side. I'm going to be on the unvaccinated side.
It's
look how many groups. That's 8 groups right there. 6 groups.
Yeah, but what they're going to do is basically all your military's got the vaccine, so or they're getting pushed out. So basically, all of them got the vaccine, so they don't have no problem forcing you down and putting in your arm. So basically, the military is going to be vaccinated, and they're going to do what they're told. What they're doing is they're trying to get military leaders in place that will obey their commander and not the Constitution.
Yes.
And they want police to do the same thing. That's why they cause all this problem, where they get these police doing this and that. And they're causing, oh, this police killed this person or that person, and they have all these police problems. So the government can come in and say, okay, we're going to train the police. We're going to nationalize the police. They want nationalized police, so it makes it easier for them to say, hey, go get the guns, because your local sheriff ain't going to take the guns.
Well, no, that's why, again, that's another conversation that we were having, is the police state that we're in, and how unconstitutional it is to have these combat tanks rolling down in our neighborhoods, because the Patriot Act allowed your local police departments to militarize, So now right. we have trained military cops that are in our quarters, in our communities, patrolling our streets. I mean, you see it. All the communities see these people coming through with tanks, and it's an army. The only difference is one says police, the other one says, whatever. But all under the guise of protect and serve, all under the guise of for the people, What was Hitler telling? What was Hitler telling the Jews to get them to get into the showers and whatnot?
I don't know.
It's okay. Everything's all right. You guys are going to paradise. You're gonna love it in there. It's beautiful.
And what did he do before he put them on a train? He took all the guns.
Well, of course.
First, they got a gun registry. And then they went door to door taking the guns.
Well, I mean, that's the Communist Manifesto. You know what I mean? That's the Communist Manifesto. One is to create atheism so that the people don't believe in anything. You know what I mean? And two is to create censorship so that the people know that they can't speak out. And then after that, you have complete control. You just come in and you just take what it is that you want from them, stick them into slavery, and the rest is history, as they say.
Well, we're already being, censored on Facebook, censored on TikTok. We're censored in the media. We're censored everywhere. And people, and then if we're not being censored, news is censoring themselves. I mean, so Fox News watches what they say now because it rolls downhill, so the propaganda arm is very strong of the government.
So you as an American citizen, Paul, you love your country?
Yes.
You love the people of the country?
Yes.
What can we do, Paul?
Well, it took over 100 years for them to get to where they're going. These people that are doing what they do not love the country as it is. They have a bigger view, a world view, and they have an idea how they want to make the world out to be. And sadly, some cases they might be right, with the overpopulating, and they're trying to fix it the best way they can. But I think there's other ways that you can fix it without going to the extreme of basically tricking them to take a shot that's going to kill them. So basically it's like this. They can start with like welfare. You have 10, 20 kids, they just keep giving them government checks. You can't do that. Okay, you have a baby, you get a government check, all right, but now you're going to get this government check. Now you're going to get, fixed so you can't have no more kids. So the government takes care of the first one, but not the next 20. So to get that first check, they're going to have to get fixed. If a guy don't want to pay for his kid and get a job and pay for his kid, then he gets fixed, okay? I can go along with that than me taking a shot that's going to kill me. You know what I mean? So I'd rather them go to that extreme than go to the extreme of fear and giving injections to, my daughter who can't have a baby now because she got that injection, and she can't have a kid because she's basically been, fixed, So that's undercover, that's underhanded, shit, if you ask me. So why not just come right out with it with hard, straightforward policies, and limit, you know, one birth per married couple or something, you know.
Well, I'll
One
say
state.
this. I'll say this. Ever since I came across understanding and using iodine as a nasal spray, I have not had one issue. And 3 of my cast members in the play that I'm doing, well, 2, 1 possibly, but so 2. Let me stick to this. 2 that I know of have been vaccinated, have been sick. There's so many vaccinated people that I know are sick. They tell me that they're sick all the time. I got COVID. I got COVID.
Let me tell you this. Because their body turns into a manufacturer of the virus. It's not a vaccine to cure the virus. That's where people are getting confused. It's not that. It is not that. It is an operating system. It's not a vaccine. It's an operating system that will be controlled by the 5G. All right. So now, first of all, a virus is not a living organism. It's the mechanism that can be, if it's a virus, any virus can be cured with proper mega doses of vitamin C. It eats it up like acid eats up when you put something on hydrochloric acid, eats it up. Well, the same thing happens to a virus when you flood the body with proper doses of vitamin C. Now, the proper dose would be 12 pills broken in half and swallowed at one time. Then every 2 hours, you take 7 more pills. You do that for a 24-hour period. You'll be completely healed of any cold, flu, H1N1, bird flu, pig flu, COVID, or with Omicron, all put together. It's that simple.
Well, Paul, what you gonna do for the rest of the day, partner?
Kick back, relax.
You deserve it, man. You look pretty relaxed right now.
Yeah, try to.
Hey, you stay safe, man. Take it easy and keep being a good citizen, man. You're a good dude, man.
All right, take care, buddy.
Yeah.
Don't let the COVID, Omicron, and get you.
I'm not letting nothing, partner. I'm not letting nothing. And if you see anybody I know, you tell them I said what's up.
All right, buddy. Take care.
All right, brother.